Hello and welcome to the Tired Granola Bar podcast with your host, Ronak. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure to leave a review if you're listening elsewhere. And make sure that you let him know how much you love the show. Thank you very much for watching and listening.
When you're doing a role, you always have to kind of shut your own self off, and like you have to mentally find that like middle ground of like where the character is and you are. But I liked how you kind of stick to one. You always like to stick to like you don't really stick to a certain like niche. Like you've done multiple projects such as like a medieval Superman, commercials, stop motion projects. Like from a conversation before, you've never stuck to really just one type of thing. Like, is there a reason for that?
It's more interesting that way.
No, what do you mean by interesting?
I just find it interesting to do different things in life. I find it boring to box yourself in and only do one thing. Um, I can't tell you how many people in life have told me like, "Oh, you need to focus on a niche. You need to focus on one thing," and I'm like, "But that's boring. I want to do what I want to do. I want to try different things because that's interesting." And how can you ever know the possibilities and what you're capable of unless you try things that you haven't tried before or out of your comfort zone?
In the beginning, did you originally try this out? Like, were you kind of stuck with like, oh, you just need one thing and that's it, or like, did you always kind of have this mindset of it's boring?
I've always had this mindset. I've always just done what I wanted to do and ignored anyone who tried to tell me to do anything otherwise, because those people are always just doing one thing in life. And I don't know, anyone that's ever involved in a lot of projects or who seems happy never seems to have that kind of negative advice. It's always people that are miserable in life or who are just, I don't know, scared or just don't want you to succeed in some way that are the ones that will criticize you the most. And it's just unfounded, and I don't listen to it.
You discussed how music was your passion, but like, would you say acting was like more hyperfixation in the moment, and then you learned to like it, or when exactly did you get into that?
These are all passions in my life. They're all part of who I am. Acting just felt like music to me, and I decided to pursue it as well.
I remember seeing in one of your past interviews, so you mentioned like how when you were younger, you learned you could kind of manipulate your voice. Like, when exactly, like at what age or like at what time do you think like this was like you learned you could mess around with it?
I don't know exactly, to be honest. I've always kind of fooled around and messed around with voices, but I think the point at which I was able to really understand voice manipulation was later in life, maybe when I got back into music and obviously I started acting, probably around that time.
Did you start maybe like with videos, or like what kind of like when you first, like when we're talking beginning, like how did you first jump into it?
So basically, I was living in Europe back in 2019, and I'd not done anything creative for quite a few years. And I was kind of disillusioned, I suppose, working some boring 9 to 5 job. And I was offered a role in a short film off the back of a friend who knew somebody. And it was, it was an opportunity. I'd never acted before. And it just seemed pretty cool as a concept. And I remember the first day I was on set, I felt quite, I don't know, like I'd not had a feeling like that before. It felt like being on stage, but it felt different. And I immediately enjoyed it. And I think that certainly was the catalyst. After that, I've not stopped since. So.
So it was sort of like music. You learned it, like you've always loved it. You just kind of you picked it up from the start.
What do you mean when you say that
Just
exactly?
like when you we were talking about music, and you said like you wrote, you had a passion for it. So like I'm saying, you've always had a passion for acting practically?
That's an interesting question. Um, I think that's a fair thing to say. I've enjoyed it since the start. I've never gone off it.
You
Mhm.
seem like you've been doing it for years by now.
Yeah, now it's what is it, like 7 years, I think?
I thought I
Something like
saw
that.
one maybe 10 years, something like that, but I could be wrong.
7 years I've been doing acting.
Do you prefer any certain types of projects over any others?
Do I prefer any particular projects? Is that the
Yeah,
question?
like you've done the medieval Superman, you've done stop motion. Like you kind of understand my question.
I don't have a preference. I just any opportunity to act or voice act, anything at all, I'm there. I love it. I live for it.
But if you had to like choose, you would there be anything?
I don't choose, man. That's the beauty of my life. No one's gonna box me in and tell me I have to do something. I just do what I want, man, and I love it.
So you're really into like everything. You're like really into like all of the arts practically.
Yeah, sure, why not?
I mean, I like
I don't understand this mentality. Or if you had to pick one, or what's your favorite? Like, that's a good example, right? People ask like, what bands do I listen to? I listen to so many different bands that I couldn't give you a favorite because it's dependent on mood. It's dependent on uh, context, moment. Do you know what I mean? It's like in this moment I listen to classical. In this moment I might listen to I don't know rap or shoegaze, spacey, dreamy pop, metal. I don't know. Like it
yeah.
depends on a lot of things. Like I think a big thing that I've tried to been sharing with people is like you don't have to box yourself in and go, okay, this is the type of human being I am, and I'm only allowed to like these things. Like that's lunacy to me. Like if you like things, just do those things. Now, I understand there's this argument of like, oh, don't spread yourself too thin, don't do too many things and not be on top of things. But then this is why people do project by project. I've said this before, like, okay, I do podcasting, music, acting, content creation. I don't do them all at the same time. I make time for each and everything. And it is, yeah, it's a juggling act. And you divert your attention in a given moment. Say like last year I was really focused on music. This year it's more voice acting, podcasting. I lean into what's going well, what's where things are headed. But I never neglect anything. I just kind of, if I have to put something on pause for a minute, I will. I return back to it. For some things like the podcast, it's continuous, but sometimes it ramps up. So like in the last couple of months, I've done loads of interviews, and now it's quieting down because I've not done any in a while, but I've got a backlog. As an example. Ultimately, I don't care what people think. I just find it interesting that when I get criticized for that, I'm like, okay, well, I like to do many things in life. I like to enjoy life and try different things. So what's your problem? Like I don't get that. I don't it's like I don't know, whatever.
Something I wanted to ask as like a personal question was like with you like saying like you do like certain projects at a certain time, like do you think it's stupid if like you choose this over like a 9 to 5? Because like when I say personal question, I convinced my parents to like let me try this out like before going to college, maybe try this out with my a gap year. And
Mhm.
how do you feel with like how do you feel like because like I've kind of gone off with you said in the last interview, like if you it, try out your passions.
Okay, I'm going to share a few things with you because it's a question, but you've also kind of asked me for advice there, and you've given me a bit of context about your own life. So I'm just going to share a few things with you, and we'll roll with it. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind is a bit of advice that Bryan Cranston shared with the world a few years back. For those who don't know, he was in Breaking Bad, famously as Walter White, Heisenberg. He hit it sort of big in his mid 40s with Malcolm in the Middle, commercials, a few other things, and he was an actor his entire life, but he had this amazing life outside of acting. But he was always an actor. And the reason I bring this man up is that his advice is: if you're an actor, if this is your passion, it has to be like a lifelong dedication. You're not always going to be nailing it with the roles. You're not always going to constantly have work. And that's part of the game. You know, you will face more rejections than successes. From a parent's perspective, it's not going to make a lot of sense because there's not security there, or perceived security. But that's lunacy. It is different. It's a difficult career to get into. Absolutely. It's one of the hardest. But at the end of the day, when people criticize the arts and people getting into the arts, their argument is always, well, don't you think you need security? Don't you want to play it safe? Well, okay, I've worked in 9 to 5s. I've worked in marketing, sales, recruitment. I've done acting, voice acting. I've earned from music for a living, online content creation. I've earned from quite a few different fields. I've also worked part-time, full-time, freelance, subcontracts, one-offs, you name it. And what I've learned is A, there are many ways to make money in life. B, you have to try and inform yourself about all of them and build what makes sense in your life. So, for example, in my life, the reason why I, for example, have a load of different jobs and I never work full time, and it's because I have freedom of time. I can be available whenever I need to be, whenever I want to be. That's number one. Number two is it's actually possible to earn more with this kind of style of approaching work, but there is a risk, like with anything else. Sometimes there'll be no work, and you have to learn how to budget, how to be sensible with your money. You know, it's like the old Jerry Reed song: "When you're hot, you're hot. When you're not, you're not." You know, but the difference is you've got to try to be sensible when things are not working out so much. And yeah, sometimes you will have to take up like a little part-time job here and there, something to get you by. It's the story of many actors over the years and continues to be to this day. For example, John Krasinski, when he was filming for the first season of The Office, he was also working full-time as a waiter. And even when they'd finished filming, he was still working there. He only quit the job like just after the first season aired or something like that. And he was going at it for a good like 3 or 4 years in New York, and he was gonna quit because he told his mum that was what he'd planned to do, and she told him to like stick around just a few more months, and that's when he got the audition for The Office. So with all of that information I've just kind of thrown at you, what I can say is it's worth having different options of employment. It's worth making yourself as employable as possible so that you're never out of work. There is something that you're interested in studying and doing a degree in. It's not necessarily a good or a bad thing. That really comes down to you and what you want and what you feel is right for you. But don't do something because you're scared or you're trying to play it safe, because I've seen so many people over the years work in a job and they've been there like 15 years, 7 years, whatever, seems like a sure bet, and then they get fired. Gone, done, end of. And what do they have? What do they have to go to? Nothing. If I get fired, I'm not scared. It's annoying, but I'll find something. I've always got something to lean on, something to go into, because I've focused on employability and making myself knowledgeable in different areas rather than just one specific career path. I've received criticism for that over the years. People have said like, oh, well, aren't you just criticizing the standard 9 to 5? You know, aren't you just criticizing specialisms? And it's like, well, people come at me and criticize me, and I never said anything. Do you know what I mean? Like I've given my thoughts based on my experiences, but I always say if you're happy, if you're content, if things are working out, then it's working out, isn't it? And it's good. Advantages to having a full-time job. I've seen them, I've experienced them. But in my life, and many artists will agree with me, it's limiting. It feels like a prison. And, ultimately, someone else controls your life. They dictate when you can take holidays, they dictate when you can leave if you need to. I mean, I don't want to work in a job, for example, that tells me when I can and can't see my future children or my wife. I want freedom of time and, hopefully freedom of money and financial freedom. And yeah, it's hard like anything else in life, but I would rather take a risk doing the things I love and not dread the day every day when I wake up, rather than do something out of fear so I can work the rest of my days doing what I hate until I can retire and maybe I might live 5 years and then die. Some life.
That I was you don't have to mention a number, of course, but like, have you made a decent living off of this? Like, or is this more, or do you want to get there hopefully one day?
I want Don't we all want to make money,
Yeah, but you know
um
what I mean, kind of. You understand what I'm asking? Like, have you made like a decent like you obviously can live comfortably for the most part.
I won't lie to you, doing acting, any kind of art, artistry, it famously doesn't pay well, but you can make a living from it. But it's luck of the draw, man. I know people that are making a full-time living from it and you've never heard of them. I know other people who are, famous or whatever the fuck, you know? So sorry, I don't know if I can swear. Um,
Nah, get out the show,
I
man.
try, I
I don't
try to
care.
avoid it. I try to, but
It's
sometimes in the
fine.
heat of the moment, it's something you caught me on something I'm very passionate about, because I've been criticized my entire life for my decisions, and it's always unsolicited advice. It's always people just coming at you from nowhere, attacking it. And I wondered for many years why people are like that. And I think it comes from fear, but it also comes from a sense of resentment, because these people are stuck in jobs and lives that they hate, and they see someone who isn't stuck, and that bothers them. So they criticize you, and it's like, yeah, but you don't get anything out of it. I continue on with my life and I don't wake up in the morning hating my life, whereas you do. And that's your problem. Now, with acting, sometimes you get good paychecks, sometimes not. I think a lot of people tend to judge it on the outside based on, or are you famous? Do you have loads of numbers? And, I judge it on things like, oh, wow, that one project that I did, that's half a month's rent. Holy crap. That I remember the first. I'll give you. I don't normally talk money, but I'll give you an example of why I was all in with voice acting. The best paid project I ever did with voice acting was I was sent to do some voice acting for program. It was like I can't remember exactly what the program was. Some Simon Bird projects, something along the lines of Everything Else Burns. I can't remember the exact name of it. Um, I don't think it was particularly big, but it was a Channel 4 project. So that was pretty cool. So we went to this warehouse studio in Manchester, and there was me and 7 other voice actors, and they gathered us all in the room. 3 of us were each around 4 different overhead mics, and we were looking at a screen of the series, and they basically just turned around and said, "Okay, just make up dialogue. That's all we need. Just make up dialogue." So we did. We just improvised conversations for a good half an hour to an hour. Lots of fun. And then we did some dubbing for a few other unrelated projects. It's 3 hours work. I got paid £400 for like 3 hours work doing something I love. Now, when you compare that to, like, I don't know, sitting in an office 9 hours a day plus travel there and back, or working in a supermarket or whatever, there really is no comparison, and the money can be good, but it is luck of the draw. I won't lie to you. It's you have to take the good with the bad, but it's a lot like winning the lottery, in the sense that, and it's you're more likely to win here and there. And when it does happen, it'll hit you out of nowhere, because you'll be just going along doing your thing, not really paying attention to if it's working out or not. It's a very weird thing, acting. you can finish a project, spend loads and loads of time on it, and then everyone immediately just moves on to the next thing, like it just didn't even happen. And then you get reminded of it like 6 months to a year later when they want to do like the press run for it. It's really odd.
So I'm taking a long story short, you choose happiness over money practically.
I don't choose one over the other. I just find a kind of a happy medium. I think anyone that's being realistic about things wants to have a decent amount of money they can live on and have savings. And I do have savings. I do have, I reinvest money that I make from acting back into it, or into my own personal savings or whatever. You always hear about the classic thing of like, oh, an artist doesn't have any money. It's like, well, it depends how you invest your money. It depends how you do things. I've always been business minded. There's this stroke, the brush that people want to paint me with of, oh, he's an airhead. Family member of mine famously said in a conversation, it wasn't said to me to my face, but they said, oh, he's got his head in the clouds. And I was gobsmacked by that comment, because I was like, well, that's not the case. So I wrote a song about it, put it on my album. And I've always had my finger on the pulse of what's going on, and I'm very well aware of when things are going right and when they're not. And I've always been in the driver's seat, dictating how I get out of a situation. I've learned a lot over the years. I've learned what to avoid, how to protect myself, etc. It's hard, but it's ultimately rewarding. And I've made money, and I'll make more money for sure. You acting, you will hear the following questions. You'll hear that question. You'll hear, oh, what would I know you from? What's the biggest project you've ever done? Are you famous? And then if you say no to one of those questions, the response will be, oh, and then they won't want to hear anything you have to say then. You could have had a whole, like, I'll give you an example. I interviewed a guy on my podcast years ago. God rest his soul. He's no longer with us. Dennis Mallon. I recommend people go and check out that show. He was a career actor, and we were actually setting up his follow-up appearance on my show briefly before he died. And there's so many great little nuggets of advice in that show. But I think the thing that I was fascinated by the most is he'd been doing acting for like 30 odd years, career actor, but wasn't famous or anything like that, and made a living from it and was successful doing it and was very good, a very good actor. And I looked at that and I was like, yeah, man, like this obsession with celebrities, celebrity worship, and you have to be famous to be successful and all this, it's just lunacy. People devalue people based on numbers rather than looking at actual talent or potential or any of those things. For example, I've been doing my show for 6 years, my podcast. Does that mean because I'm not famous that it's a bad podcast? Do you know what I mean? Like it,
Yeah.
or is it just like, maybe it's just not gotten the recognition it deserves? Maybe it's just luck of the draw. Maybe it's terrible. I don't know. But I know that it's not because I'm famous or not. That has nothing to do with it. But the problem in society is that people value other people based on their status.
Yeah. Although
and that's something, if you pursue acting, that's definitely something that you will be judged upon and will be judged against you.
Although I'd prefer maybe a certain guest over another guest. Like, I wouldn't say it's just crappy. I'd just say because they all have their own perks in one way. Like, to some other person, that. So I do think all podcasts, if you're doing for stupid reasons, then it's gonna be stupid. But if it's just but I'd say all podcasts, or any creatives have their own. Any creatives basically have their own spark in one way or another. Is basically what I would have to say to that. So I do agree with you.
Everyone does things for different reasons, but at the end of the day, it's
just where it takes.
I think. Well, look, I don't see my career in acting as a failure because I'm not famous. Because I'm proud of everything I've ever done. And people, that's another thing people will ask you, which would never happen in any other job. People ask you oh, do you get paid? How much do you get paid? It's none of your business. What the fuck? How come it's okay to ask actors how much they get paid, but then it's not okay to ask, like, I don't know, a career salary guy how much he makes. How's that fair? It's like, oh, how much you making, buddy? Oh, you don't want to tell me? Oh, okay. Then end of conversation.
I will say, like, I don't want to, like, I never want to give somebody a big head, of course, but like, I did of course watch back some of your stuff. You can keep for the questions and whatnot, like it's Knitable Superman, your stop motion projects. Like, I did go back on your website, and I do think you did a decent job. You've been very professional over the years. You've actually made some decent content, and like, have you ever considered making your own stuff, or like, have you made your stuff that I haven't found out?
Yeah, I co-directed one of my music videos. I've done a lot of personal projects on YouTube over the years. To be honest, I just don't have the money to do the stuff I want to do. But I've written scripts. I've got ideas. It's there. I just need money.
I mean, then again, people can always make it on an iPhone, so there's nothing necessary. But I get what you mean. Still,
You need good money to do things properly. Like when I hear people say like, "Oh, I made a film on an iPhone," it's like, okay, you've got the latest iPhone. You did this as kind of like an experiment, but you still need like the editing software to do things properly. You need a team of people and so on and so forth. I mean, it depends what you're trying to achieve. That is a big part of it, especially with filmmaking. It's what the scope of the project actually is. But I want to do things the way I've learned how to do them, the way films typically are done. Like that's what I'm interested in. If that happens in the future, I've got ideas. I just need money.
when
Simple.
we're when sending in something to, like, when you're like doing a casting call, like, is there like a certain thing you'd want to, like, you look like you certainly want to send to the producer or like director, like the casting call person?
I don't really get to talk to many people, to be honest, because the industry's changed a lot these days. It's you send off self tapes, and then if you're lucky, you get a follow up audition or you get the role. But it's a totally different industry now. I've had more success with voice acting, and I can tell you with voice acting, it's very quick turnaround. I find it helpful when I can kind of talk directly to a director or something and kind of workshop a character. Like I'll come with an idea and I'll be like, "Is this what you're looking for? Do you want it a little bit more like this, etc., etc." That's in terms of the collaborative process. That's the part I really enjoy is just kind of curating a character and then kind of polishing them off and getting the final imprint, if you like.
Ignoring the part of like, what would you choose, this or that? Like, what would you rather do? Like, would you do voice acting or in person if you had to choose, like, between the two? Because with the voice acting, you can literally go as high or low or whatever you want to manipulate your voice to be. I heard you say that in one of your past interviews. But with like but with like in camera acting, you've done that as well. Like, you can all you really have is your eyes to an extent. The rest is just what you make of it. What would you rather do if I can ask?
It's a cop out, but I don't really know, to be honest. They're so different. They are so different, and the way I go about them as well is completely different. Like I consider voice acting and acting to be two completely different mediums, and I know that people that do both will agree with me here. It's when you're doing acting, um, obviously you're memorizing lines and you're spending a lot of time focusing not just on the dialogue but on the way the character moves, the way the little nuances in the character. When you're acting with other actors, you're reacting to them and you're working together to kind of get the most out of the scene and out of each other. And it's very much you kind of taking advantage of everything around you, including the people working on set. Like they're the ones who make the film. You're the final piece of the puzzle, but it's really is a collaborative effort from everyone involved. Voice acting's a bit more. I don't know. I rarely ever have to learn my lines for that because that you have them in front of you and you're more focused on capturing the voice and getting the emotion over. Um, and that's a challenge as well because sometimes you really have to push quite intense emotions and you've only got your voice to do it, but you've also got the benefit of doing it at your pace, and you can do these things from home. Like 90% of projects I do voice acting, I do from home. So there are a lot of benefits, but I couldn't pick one or the other, to be honest. They're very different.
Course, you're working on the podcast. Of course, that's like what you stated that was like your main thing for the moment. But like, should we see anything like any projects or like any roles that you're trying to get into for like the near future?
Right now, voice acting and podcasting are the two things that are taking most of my attention. There's a few films I've done that will get released at some point on screen. I don't know when. You never get told anything. But with voice acting, there's a lot of projects, and it's just, yeah, I'm just very busy with that, and I'm available, y'all. If you're interested, hire me. Actor, voice actor, musician, podcaster, content creator. I'm available. Contact Christian Reeve at gmail.com.
All of his stuff is in the past interview. Go check that out. But all of his
Thank
stuff
you.
is down. But all of his stuff is in the description. Go if you want to go find him, you find it there. But like actually, I just thought of this. How do you forgive me if you already said in the past one, but if you could give us a little recap, how do you choose what you like? You obviously have like the way of like choosing what's going to be the most important right now, whether it's podcasting, voice acting, or like acting in general. Like, how do you choose like where the line ends and begins? Do you understand what I mean?
It's like I said earlier, it depends mm, where the attention needs to be, you know? Um, the podcast goes in waves. It depends. Like sometimes I'll get loads and loads of people reaching out about being on the show. So I need to kind of like plan, research, put stuff together. That's how most of this year's been. With voice acting, it's very much like acting. It's like here and there. Like you'll have like months of nothing, and then suddenly loads and loads of stuff. Um, so it's just kind of going with the flow, really. Um, I had to put music on hold for the time being because I need money to invest back in so I can pick up a project that I had, because this producer let me down. They were very unprofessional. So I'm going to try and pick that back up and then lay down what will become my second album at some point down the road. But it's just about finding the right producer and team, getting the money together, etc. So that's a long-term consideration. So right now I'm like, right, that's on the back burner. Focus on the other stuff, and that's just how I go about things. You focus on what needs your attention in the moment, and just kind of up, update it where you need to.
Thank you for guys for checking out this second part interview of Christian Reeve and aka Christian Reeve podcast. You can check all of his stuff out down in the description, including the one from before. I am Ronico Taylor. That is the TV in the background, and I apologize if you have. I tried to edit as well as I could today, but some of the stuff I just couldn't, and I wasn't going to delete the good stuff. So I apologize. I hope you can deal with it and come back next Wednesday. I promise we are always this good of a team. I am Ronico Taylor, if you haven't heard for the 50th time in a row, and have a good day. Oh, and go check out my TikTok. Later. Down in the description.